We're looking at a series centered around the idea of presence, and we're going to be seeing and discussing ways that we can fully occupy or enter or be present during this Advent season. I hope that you had a great Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving at the Craig House was eventful and great and fun. For those of you that are wondering, made my dressing, and Paula Dean would have been very proud. And she'd been quite jealous, and Betty Crocker was probably looking down from wherever she is in life and thinking, I'm glad I put that recipe in that red book for him to use to cook his dressing. But it just turned out great. Just a little side note, when you're cooking a turkey and you're using a roaster, I think that's what it is, and you put it in the oven, we cook ours upside down, and make sure there's no holes in the roaster, because then the grease gets in there, and pretty soon Mom is screaming because the oven is full of fire and flames. And I'm like, oh, burn this mother down, it's going to burn, right? And so I let them take care of the situation, and I noticed that my bag, which has my life in it, it's my computers and all Apple devices, it's like my savings, retirement, inheritance, all in one little bag. I'm like, all right, guys, y'all take care of the fire. I'm just going to move this to the next room. And I know that, and then I saw the cats. I'm like, hey, y'all should go in the kitchen. It's really cool in there. So I know. Sorry, I could get in trouble for saying that on stage, couldn't I? Are there? Okay, whatever, it's all right. I've been sick the past couple of days, and so it's going to be dusty uncut today for Saturday night. Last night was when I was really sick, and that was interesting, very interesting. So hopefully no one was there, but I think there were people. So as we talk about the idea of Christmas, it's, I like Christmas, okay? But I love Thanksgiving. You can tell my heart isn't Thanksgiving, right? But I like Christmas, and I think the reason why I'm not just infatuated with Christmas is going to really be addressed in the way that we talk about the Christmas season today. And this time of year, the question that's asked is, what did you get for Christmas? And I think back over some gifts, and I've shared this many times, but one of my favorite all-time gifts is this Optimus Prime Transformer doll that I got when I was a kid. It was about 2 feet or 3 feet tall at the time. I was like 4'2" or whatever, and it was as big as I was, and I remember that I was like, okay, I got Optimus Prime, we are going to go take over the world. And then, one year, I remember this as clear as day, my sister was turning 16, and so she got a car for Christmas, and growing up in the hood with my roots, back in Irving in the ghetto, she got an Infiniti with like a red bow wrapped around it, and I'm like, what? And then I got like a sweater, a Yule log, and a fruitcake. And I don't even know what to do with a Yule log. I don't know what that is. And so I'm going, man, this is, I got hosed. Like, this is redistribution of giftings and wealth. And I feel like telling my parents, I am your one and only begotten son. Like, you can't do this to me, right? And so we have all these ideas of what we get for Christmas. And so I figured, for those of you that haven't done your shopping yet, I've got about 6 or 7 interesting gifts that I want to show you up on the screen that you might be able to purchase during Christmas. The first one, for any cat lovers, we're going to see, it's a DJ Cat scratch pad. Turntable that instead of your furniture, you can let your cat become a DJ, mixing on the ones and twos, for those of you that are so inclined. Next one. The world's largest gummy bear. I've got about 3 people in my life that would be delighted in this gift. It's $29.95, and it comes with a free sugar coma for those of you that are asking. No additional charges implied. Next one. Awkward Family Photos board game. Whoever created this is way cool. What I'd love to do sometime is like bring it up here and we play the board game during a sermon. It's kind of like a jump to conclusions mat. And I'd like to see if any of our family pictures ended up in this board game, because we all know that we've taken family photos, or we had know people that have taken family photos that end up in this game. I mean, Olin Mills, they have like the whole, like so much blackmail on us, it's ridiculous, right? Next one. Oh, this is a great invention. It's a donut hole maker. So you don't even have to cut the hole out of the donut. You just have the donut hole. And think about that. Every day you could just make donut holes and not have to get up early in the morning. Okay, next one. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cups. It's like turtles in a half shell, turtle power in a glass. And side note, if you're looking for a gift for your favorite worship leader that plays the guitar on Sundays at 11 a.m., this would be pretty high. Serious cool points, especially the Donatello version of there. Next one. Okay, this is so important. This is a macaroni and cheese air freshener. Because if you've ever wondered anything like me, how could I get my room to smell like macaroni and cheese every day of the year? Here is your answer. The macaroni and cheese air freshener. You can put one in your car. You can put one in your backpack. You can put... So you can tell I really like this gift. So I might have already ordered one, I'm not gonna lie. And now I'm feeling vulnerable. So last one, this is one of my favorites too. And it's a bacon ornament. I mean, why not have a bacon ornament on your Christmas tree, right? Just to let you know, they are coming out with the second version of this. The State Fair is issuing it. It's going to be the fried bacon ornament. And so I wonder if it's scratch and sniff, because bacon just makes everything better. If you don't remember anything from the sermon today, remember that. Bacon makes anything better. Brussels sprouts, better with bacon. Broccoli, better with bacon. Shampoo, better with bacon. I don't know what it is, but bacon makes everything better, right? And so just some ideas of some gifts for Christmas. And when I get around the seasons and the holidays, I start thinking, you can take that down so I can get serious now. That's called an extended icebreaker. When I start to think about holidays, and especially around Thanksgiving, the idea of Christmas, what comes to mind is, what would the perfect Christmas look like? Like, if you and I could get together and go, okay, we're going to draw up the perfect Christmas, what would be involved? Who might be there? Who might not be there? What would the meal look like? Or what would the decorations look like? Or what would it smell like? Hopefully macaroni and cheese and bacon, right? What would we do together as a group? Or how would we celebrate the perfect Christmas? Maybe yours is the Miracle on 34th Street Christmas, or Bing Crosby's White Christmas, or maybe it's Chevy Chase's Griswold Christmas, right? All including Randy Quaid and the deflating turkey and the Christmas lights and the grandma that praised, what does she pray? The Pledge of Allegiance in that prayer. I love that scene. What would your perfect Christmas season look like? How would you live it out? How would we say, you know what? This was a Christmas worth remembering. You see, nobody wants a Christmas worth forgetting. We all long, and we share this in common, for a Christmas that we remember, one that goes down in the history books. And in this time where so many can be lonely and have some negative memories associated with holidays, how could we possibly craft and shape and create the perfect Christmas? And so in order to frame our conversation, I want to hold that video that we saw in tension, and mainly one spot that talked about how that Americans spend $450 billion during Christmas, and that how $20 billion would solve the water epidemic. And so let those two numbers really create a frame of reference for us, some tension for us, because as Christians, we should have a knot in our stomach right now. And so what do these two numbers have to do with anything? And it's of my thought that these two numbers depict two different versions of the Christmas story. And my hope today is that we would choose which one we want to enter into, to walk into. A Christmas story based on consumerism at its head figure, or a Christmas story actually centered on Christ. And so my desire is that you and I would walk into a Christ-centered Advent season, that we would make some steps and take some risks and make some changes in our current version of the story and buy into the original story, the true story, the best story of Christmas. Does that sound like a plan? Are we cool now? Okay. See why I had to tell a whole lot of jokes up front so you weren't like throwing tomatoes at me? It's all right. I am sleek like Ninja, and I got Fruit Ninja on Connect, so I'll be like, shwa, shwa, shwa. I will slice those tomatoes or watermelons, whatever it would be. And so we're going to start in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to look at the Gospel of John, mainly the first chapter. And John's Gospel is very, very unique. The first three Gospels, Mark, Matthew, and Luke, they are what's called the Synoptic Gospels, and they are able to tell the eyewitness accounts of Jesus' ministry from a Jewish perspective. And so if you were to open up your Bible and see, you would see similar stories and verses in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. But then John uses a little bit different language, and sometimes there's similar stories, but there's also some different stories, and it's very distinct in its nature. Many of us are very familiar with John 3:16. We see it. Somehow this guy has passes at every sports arena across the country. I don't know how he affords it, and that's what we find in John's Gospels. There's the great I am statements of Jesus, but also what's distinctive about John's Gospel is John chapter 1. And in John chapter 1, John is introducing the way that Jesus came into the world, but he's having to do it on Greek terms because the Jewish audience, they used Messiah language because that was what was prophesied, that Jesus would be the Messiah, take away the sins of the world, all that. But John was speaking to a Greek-influenced audience, and that they wouldn't have understood that language. And so John reaches back into what was called the Logos. It was this figure that permeated Greek thought and philosophy and literature, and associated with Jesus is this figure of wisdom, this figure of all-encompassing being that you have learned about and read about, and thus that's what frames first chapter of John. And so let me read the first 4 verses, and we'll try to unpack it and see how this can affect our Advent season. So in John chapter 1, verses 1 through 4, in the beginning was the Word. And as we start, instantly we should know in the beginning what are we thinking about here? He's winking and nudging, pushing us back to Genesis 1, right? So in the beginning was the Word, and this is that Logos I was talking about. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. So we see here that in the beginning, this Jesus was with God. This Jesus was God. He was with God from the very beginning, echoing Genesis 1. And then we progress into the creation account, and all things came into being through him. And without him, not one thing came into being. You could really translate this better. It would be, apart from him, not one thing has come into being that has come into being. That's really what the literal is, and so I like that one. And then what has come into being in him, and here's some words to describe Jesus, was life. And the life was the light of all people. We see that with the arrival of Jesus, that apart from being this co-creator in the creation of the world, apart from being with God, being God, that Jesus brought life and light. And we could just stop right there and talk about all the ramifications about us as life and light. We could apply it to this Advent season. Say, well, maybe in us trying to figure out the perfect Christmas or how we could live this out, it would be centered on life and light. We're going to be people that bring life into situations and bring light into situations. One writer said that the first chapter of the Gospel of John is one of the greatest adventures of religious thought ever achieved. That it's John's thought that Jesus is none other than God's creative and life-giving and light-giving word, that Jesus is the power of God which created the world, and the reason of God which sustains the world come to earth in human and bodily form. That here at the beginning, John lays it down that in Jesus and in him alone, there is perfectly revealed all that God always was and will be, and all that he feels towards and desires for men and women. What a great way to start a gospel. And it's so hard for me not to keep going to read you the rest of chapter 1 because it's really, really, really good. But Todd already claimed verse 14. And so he was like, hey, whatever you do not talk about verse 14. And, he's kind of my boss, so I can't talk about verse 14 today. And so when he comes in, this is what I want you to do. I think it's week 2 or week 3 of the series. When he talks about verse 14, y'all should all be like, ooh. We could have the clap thing where you insert clap here, give him a clap. He'll be so excited. But don't tell him, oh, wait, he's probably watching this. Okay, never mind. Okay. I just scratch that. But it gets even better. It really does. And so the idea that's centered around Jesus as a gift to the world during Christmas, that's what we celebrate. That the coming of Christ changed everything, and it was as a gift. Our story, our Advent story, centers around the idea of a gift. And so rewind back to our question about Christmas. Really the prevailing question of the day is, what did you get? But here in light of this Advent story, maybe for us to begin to take steps towards a Christmas not worth forgetting, a Christmas of our dreams, the question should be, what did you give? That in some way we've bought into consumeristic version of the Christmas story, and in how we associate the amount of gifts with the success of Christmas. And really rooted in our story is saying, no. When this story is lived out, it's about what you give. So that subtle difference in the question, while it may seem small and tiny, is what determines the difference between 20 billion and 450 billion. You see the difference? What did you get or what did you give? And when you're operating under one narrative or the other, can determine 450 billion spent on Christmas, 20 billion needed to cure clean water. So how we view and interpret and live out the Christmas story is of utmost importance. Or maybe a better question is, how would Jesus celebrate his birthday? How would Jesus celebrate his birthday? For us to change the question, what do you give? Okay, let's just be honest for a sec. All right, I'll just speak from my experience. Think about all the time and energy and wrapping paper and tape and tissue paper. Is that what? Okay, bows if you're like gift wrapper 2.0 skill, and money, and headspace, and all the frustration about all of your gift buying last year. All the time, all that. Now let me ask you a question. You don't answer this out loud, because you might be sitting next to family. What did you get for Christmas last year? And if I'm honest, I have no idea. Like, I know I got some socks, and I think I probably got like a techie something, and a kitchen appliance that I won't use. Like it's like a crock pot. What do you do with that? Like, do you grill? Can you grill in a crock pot? I don't know what that is. Is that a George Foreman thing? So if your answer is anywhere remotely like mine, so you mean to tell me that we spend all this time and energy and headspace and money buying and giving Christmas gifts, and then 11 months later, we don't even remember? Now, take it a step further. As Christians who live out this story, you mean to tell me that we spend the time and the energy and the headspace and contribute largely to $450 billion when there's people that are in our story that don't even get water? Like, something ain't right with this. That's like, I got a knot in my stomach just thinking about it. So what do we do? What steps can we take? Now, I'm not saying don't celebrate Christmas by any means. I'm just saying before it all gets started, okay, let's take a step back and go, what story am I and my family going to live out this Christmas? Are we going to live out a story of consumerism? Or are we going to live out the story centered on Christ? So just an idea, just really want to challenge us with that, to take some steps towards a different story, of fully being present in Christmas, to have a Christmas that we remember. And before it gets too late, we should probably, in the words of my favorite rapper, we should check ourselves before we wreck ourselves, if you know what I'm saying. So I have some ideas. There's ways that we can give. We can give hope. We can look for ways that we can go and give hope. There's something about what happens when Christians show up on the scene of hopeless situations that you can walk in, and the presence of God, the presence of the Holy Spirit within us, enables us to bring hope into a situation. And so we could say, well, if I want to live a different story, myself, my family, we can find ways to take hopeless situations and bring hope to it. There's ways that we can give sacrificially, to give something that kind of hurts a little bit. And I was really challenged with this because I was looking back over the past couple of months, the past year, going, have I given sacrificially anything away? And I haven't. Nothing. There's something special when we give sacrificially. I think it kind of echoes the idea to consider others as more important than ourselves. And so to give when it kind of hurts a little bit. We can give of ourselves. Maybe some of the ways that we can re-enter and reclaim this Christmas story is to be fully present, to say, I'm going to give my time, give myself into this situation. Because we all have the gift card list, right? We go, okay, all right, we know we need to give this many gift cards, and so Sally gets a Kohl's gift card, and Billy gets a Nike gift card, and Sammy gets the gift card trinity of Chili's, Macaroni Grill, and Corner Bakery, right? We've all been there before, which, by the way, if you have any extras, feel free. I love them. No, but we do that. But maybe what's needed is our presence. That could be a better gift. Some of you, your gift, you don't need to give any physical gifts to anybody, but you need to give away your time. And that can be hard. That can be really hard. This Advent conspiracy movement is really cool, and I've been getting to talk about it since 2008. And it's been interesting what started with 2 churches, one in Minnesota and one in Houston, has now become a movement of thousands and thousands of churches. And it's very interesting to see how churches are responding to this story. We have an outlet very similar. If you go outside of the bridge and into Wesley Hall, to the right there is an angel tree, and it's got all types of people that you can sponsor and make their Christmas a memorable one. And there's some ties into water wells in Africa with that. And so I really challenge you to step out and say, what could we do? And if you did 1 this year, go, okay, we might do 2 this year, to make Christmas one worth that others don't have to forget about, one that people can experience this Christmas story. And so in order for us to enter into this Advent conspiracy, for us to be fully present, here's a couple more ideas. One is really to reorient the fact that we're to worship fully, that Christmas is about worship, that it starts with Jesus, it ends with Jesus, and our response is worship. Not only worship in here, but worship with our lives. I love that one writer said that worship is our response to what we value the most. And so if we were to look at our time, log our time or log our expenses, we'll get a really quick idea of what we value the most. And so it's to be about worship, a season to where we're supposed to worship about the love of God, the peace of God, the hope that God gave to the world through Jesus. The next idea is for us to spend less. I know this sounds crazy, but we can spend less. 450 billion is a big number. It's a lot of zeros. I got a couple of those in my Swiss bank account, but for us to spend less this Christmas, to say, all right, I'm gonna spend a little bit less in order to fight the consumerist mindset. Because then with our next point, it goes really well. We want to spend less, but then we want to give more. You say, how does that happen? Is that we get creative. We give in other ways than a physical present. We give in ways that involve time, that build relationship, ways that make meaningful memories. Kiddos, last week I challenged the Saturday night crew. He said, sometime during this week, Thanksgiving, I want you to surprise your parents and just tell them thank you. Just find a way and say thank you. Not after they've gotten you something or cooked the turkey, and had some really cool stories last night from that crew about how they did that. Well, this is what I'm challenging you with during Christmas season. I want you to think of a gift for your mom or for your dad or your grandparents or aunt or uncle, and I want you to put some thought into it. It might involve writing a thank you note. It might involve telling your favorite memory over the past year. It could involve if you've got some funny pictures that might end up in the awkward family photos guide, whatever it might be. But find a way to creatively express a really, really memorable Christmas gift for your folks this year. And they'll be like, who are you and what did you do with my kiddo? But it's just a way to honor, to create memories, and that'll be what is remembered. Maybe it's even a poem, right? You could be like, and don't underestimate the value of roses are red and violets are blue. Santa's cool, but Mom, I love you. I mean, cool points, like brownie points from now on. Just an amazing way to spend less. I love the store. Maybe y'all remember this in elementary. We would have the Christmas gift store. You can go in and spend like, $4 and get, 50 million things and like peppermint perfume and, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer deodorant. And it was just a great place to go and get those, but you spent less. The last way that then we can give more, that frees up the time, it frees up the headspace for us to be fully present in Christmas. And then lastly, we love all. We understand that the season is a season to where we're supposed to love all. That at the core of this Jesus message who broke in on the scene was to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And then he spent his whole time here on earth depicting, well who's my neighbor? And all these different characters, from the least of these to those in prison to the sick, and everyone ends up that we're all family. And for us to love all this Christmas, for us to say, I'm going to look for people and places and situations where there's no love present. And I'm going to invade their world like Jesus invaded our world through love. And so a challenge for you and for me to really celebrate and live into the Christmas story, the Advent story that we see that's centered on Christ and not consumerism. To step back and go, am I living the Christmas of my dreams? I mean, imagine what could happen if a group of people decided to say, we are going to say no to this Christmas story and enter into this Christmas story. Imagine the lives that were changed if we put as much time and energy and headspace into shopping for gifts as we did for looking for people that needed a place to be during Christmas and that needed hope during Christmas and that had needs that you and I could meet. So imagine what could possibly happen if we actually were Christian during Christmas. That we saw these values of the world and we had a countercultural approach to it. It's like the same teachings that said if you want to be great, then you serve, and if you want to be first, then you're last, and if someone slaps you on the cheek, you turn the other cheek, and if someone wants you to walk 1 mile, you go 2 miles. That here's the picture of greatness. That's me getting down on my knees and washing your feet. So maybe this Christmas we say, no, it's not about get, but it's about what can we give. And so I hope that you will go on this journey as you have time to step back and to go, okay, how are we going to live this Advent season? How are we going to worship fully, to spend less, to give more, and to love all this season?